Ferrets originate from polecats, which are wild muscovids, which originate from this country as well as other parts of Europe. And over a long, long period of time, they've been kept in captivity and they have been tamed, essentially. And from those original polecats, you now have ferrets. My dad had ferrets when I was young, so I started ferreting when I was probably 8 or 9. It's an activity which is very well suited to children because they can get involved with setting nets and handling the ferrets and handling the rabbits as well. So it's a very inclusive activity.
As we get close to the berries where the rabbits are living, we have to really think about how much noise we're making. Obviously, rabbits have got excellent sense of hearing, and if they're able to detect that you're above ground, quite often they'd rather stay and face the ferrets than actually come out and face you. So we keep as quiet as possible as we approach the berry, and then we've got more chance of success.
When they're very young, you make a point of taking them out and handling them, stroking them, let them run over you, and you make sure that they don't have any fear of you. And then as they get older, they will turn out to be mild-mannered. A minimum requirement for ferrets is a decent sized hutch. And also it's quite good if you can attach a pipe to another area where they can run outside and get some sunshine. So I've sectioned off an area of quite a large shed, and they all live in there in a sort of colony. So that means they get lots of exercise and they're able to socialise with other ferrets because they do enjoy living as a group. Ferrets will live for maybe 4 or 5 years if you look after them well. Gills are the females, Hobs are the males. And gills are the ones that are used most often. Because they're smaller, they're less likely to get hold of the rabbits and to hold them underground, because of course the idea is that the rabbits run out. This is an albino, so it's got white fur and red eyes, and you can also get polecat coloured ferrets and all sorts of different colours in between.
Yeah, vibration is also really important, so that's particularly worth thinking about if you've got undergrowth to clear. So if you've got a berry which is covered in brambles, you'll want to go and clear that off about 24 hours before, because if you start hacking at things and pulling out undergrowth and weeds, you're going to send vibrations down into the ground, which is going to let the rabbits know that you're there. There's quite a few signs that we look out for as we get near the berry. So we'll be looking for signs of scratching, possibly little bits of fur, prick marks, which are the holes made by the claws in the mud on the entrance to the holes. Also, if the holes are full of leaves, it obviously means that there aren't any rabbits in there. So there's a variety of different signals that we're going to look for. This is probably only a set of about 9 or 10 holes. You could have 100 holes in a berry, so depending on how large the colony is. These days, with the high prevalence of myxomatosis and other diseases, I rarely find berries of rabbits with more than maybe 7 or 8 rabbits in, even if it's quite an extensive range of holes. So this is where a rabbit has just been scratching a little hole, and you can see the loose soil here, and you see that that isn't very old at all, otherwise it all would have been packed down by the rain. Rabbits are very territorial, and when they come together they'll often have a little fight, and fur will often be pulled off in those exchanges. So if you get little clumps of fur around the berry, that's a good sign that there might be rabbits present. It's very important that every single hole gets covered, otherwise the hole which isn't covered by net is always the one the rabbit comes out of.
The nets that we use for ferreting are these purse nets. They're called purse nets because they've got drawstrings around the outside there. When the rabbit comes out of the hole, it goes into the middle of the purse net, the drawstrings close, and if it's gone well, you have a rabbit stuck in your net.
It's very important you put the peg in, because that's what will draw the net closed. Make sure the net's well spread over the hole and push the middle in. So the first part of the net that the rabbit comes in contact with is the middle, and then you've got more chance of a clean catch.
Ferrets aren't trained, they're working entirely on instinct. So what a ferret is trying to do when it goes down the hole is catch a rabbit and kill it. We rely on the fact that rabbits on the whole are quicker than ferrets. So when a ferret encounters a rabbit, 9 times out of 10 what happens is the rabbit will turn tail and will run out of the quickest exit and get caught in the net. And that's what you're hoping will happen. If the rabbit decides to go down a dead end or to face the ferret rather than come out, then you will get a situation where the ferret gets hold of the rabbit, and then you may need to dig down to get the rabbit and the ferret back. This is a location collar. and you put that onto another ferret, send the ferret down into the berry, and then you can use your locator to see exactly where your ferret is. And it has a depth reading on the top, and if it's reading at 6 foot, then you feel very unhappy, because that's a lot of digging to get down to your ferret. A few nets, a couple of ferrets, a spade, loads and loads of patience, and you're there. Yeah. Yeah, they've woken up now. Yeah.
Now we've got all the holes netted on the berry, it's time to enter the ferret. Depending on the size of the berry depends on how many ferrets you use. So with a small berry like this, we're just going to use one gill at a time. So all I'm going to do is just move one of the nets to one side and put the ferret down into the berry, and then hopefully the ferret will disappear off underground and look for the rabbits.
The reason that rabbits are ferreted for or controlled in other ways is because they're considered a pest species. They obviously cause huge amounts of damage to agriculture and to forestry. So the general feeling is the more that you can take out of the environment, the better, with the knowledge that rabbits are able to procreate so fast that they will in fact recolonize any areas that you take them out of. And in fact, nowadays disease accounts for far more rabbit deaths than any kind of human control.
It can take quite a long time, but what you do is put the ferret in and stand back, make sure you're not standing in front of any hole so that you don't scare any rabbits if they come up, and then you just have to wait and see what happens.
You would want to make sure you did it in the winter, out of the breeding season. You wouldn't want to be in a situation where you were taking a pregnant doe or a doe which was in milk who had dependent young, because obviously that would leave young ones starving, which is not a situation you would want to have. It's another ethical dimension of any field sports, really, that all of the animal is used for food after it's been caught. You could go out ferreting for maybe a whole day, and with the kind of rabbit numbers that there are nowadays, if you caught 15 or 20 rabbits, that would be considered a good day's ferreting. If you went out night shooting, for example, which is another popular method of rabbit control, and you went out for 2 or 3 hours in a four-wheel drive vehicle, then you may shoot between 50 and 100 rabbits in that time. If you've got the time to spend, you can ferret an area very thoroughly and make sure the rabbits have gone completely. Then you can backfill the holes, and then if you repeat that process later on, you can actually get rid of rabbits from an area, which is something you'll never do just by shooting.
So despite the fact there were some decent rabbit signs there, you can never be sure that there are any rabbits in the berry, and it looks like today we're going to draw a blank, which is a bit of a shame, but it's not unusual.
If you want to go out ferreting, you're going to need to get permission. That means you're going to have to strike up a relationship with farmers or landowners in your area. Of all the field sports, ferreting is in fact the thing which people find easiest to get permission for, because there's a limit to the number of problems you can cause with a ferret and a few nets.
A wonderful thing to do, even if you don't get anything at the end of the day.